Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. In this segment, I will be interviewing Ron Hunt from the podcast All About Wine. You know, July is coming up. It's almost here, and July is National Wine and Cheese Month. So Ron is going to share some tips and some wine pairing tips for us also. My other interview is with Mary Bode from the Knead Community Cafe. In the month of July, we'll be starting a new feature where we're going to feature a monthly nonprofit that's doing good things, and our first featured nonprofit will be the Knead Community Cafe. And I'll also be sharing a recipe for my plum amaretti muffins. You know, the summertime, I love just picking the plums from my plum trees, all those fresh plums, and I love to create recipes with them, and I think this will be your favorite breakfast, my plum amaretti muffins. So stay tuned. I'll be sharing that recipe also. And I just want to give a special thanks to all of my listeners that are liking and sharing the episodes of my podcast with family and friends. Thank you so much. And you know, at the end of this month, which June is almost ended, I think we just have really one more day left as I'm recording this now, we will be announcing the winners for the month of June for the Vital Choice limited edition grilling kit for a Chicago pizza from Lou Malinotti Chicago Pizza, and a copy of my book, The Basic Art of Pizza. And in July, we will be announcing some more giveaways. So thank you again for liking and sharing all the episodes. I'm spending my summer holidays with the plums that are overabundantly filling my little farm this year, but who can complain? These plums appear every few years, and the weather apparently has agreed with them this year. Besides plum preserves and marmalade, here's another way to enjoy the plums for breakfast with these muffins, of course with a cappuccino. Plum amaretti muffins, 1 cup of flour, 3/4 cup of milk, 1/4 cup of butter, 2 eggs, 12 fresh plums, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, grated peel of 1 lemon, 8 amaretti cookies crushed. Cut the plums into cubes. Crush the amaretti cookies and set that aside. Softened butter with sugar. The butter should not be melted but softened. Then sift the flour and baking powder together and add that into the butter sugar mixture a little bit at a time. Then add in the milk, blending a little in at a time. Then add in vanilla and lemon peel. Stir in the plum pieces. Butter and flour muffin tins, or use paper muffin cups. Sprinkle the bottom of the muffin tins or cups with a teaspoon of crushed amaretti cookies. Pour in the muffin batter till 3/4 filled. Sprinkle tops of the muffins with crushed amaretti. Bake at 350 degrees for 25 minutes. Remove from the oven and let cool, and this will be your new favorite breakfast. Well, July is National Wine and Cheese Month, and today we have a special guest, Ron Hunt. Ron is the host of a popular podcast about wine, characteristically called All About Wine. Perfect title. And Ron, how are you today?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
Great. So, Ron, tell us about your background. I know you started telling me a little bit that you had a winery, and tell us how you got into wine.
I have been involved with wine for years and years. I lived in California, and while I was there, I was curious about wine since we lived in Northern California, and obviously that was just a hop from Napa. And I had a friend of mine who was very much into wine, and so he decided to teach me. And he would take a bottle of wine in a brown bag and pour it and say, "Here, tell me about it." And at the beginning, it was, well, it's wine. but then I progressed to the point where I was able to distinguish the characters and everything else. And
Yeah.
that got me started on the road.
Uh-huh.
I have been involved with wine off and on my whole life. I've worked in different areas. And 20 years ago, had a chance to get a winery.
Uh-huh.
And so Florida Estates Winery, located north of Tampa.
Uh-huh.
And that was open, well, we opened it in August of 2001.
Uh-huh.
And then we grew from there, and I had to close it 5 years ago. I'm doctor's orders. I'm diabetic, and the stress and the diabetes and all that was
yes,
too much. So she said, close the winery. So we did.
Uh-huh.
But during the time that we had the winery, we a guy came in and said, "Is it okay if I do a podcast from here and announce the space shuttle?" And I said, "Sure." So he got in the back room and did that. And after that was over, he said, "Let's do a short podcast on the winery."
Uh-huh.
And so we started doing the podcast at the winery.
Uh-huh.
And that developed into a sporadic shows. We'd get together once in a while. But then in 2008, I believe it was, we decided to start doing it weekly. We got ourselves on a platform, which I can't remember which one it was. And we had problems with connections and with, as most people do with anything that's associated with computers.
Yes.
And so in February, 1st of February, end of January of 2009, we switched over to Blog Talk Radio.
Oh, okay.
And at that time, we started doing a weekly program every Thursday night at 7:00. And we have been doing that with a few exceptions because of different incidents or unable to do it. But we've been doing that every week now since 2009.
Oh, wow. That's great. So you got started, I guess, with podcasting when it was just starting to kind of get popular. And I can imagine all the problems with connections and stuff like that, because we're still having that now, but things are a little bit more evolved and organized. But that's great. So you're a self-taught wine expert then. It sounds like you really concentrated and you taught yourself about wine.
Most of the knowledge I have has been through contact with other people and all that. I've never had any formal education, although I've done some classes at local colleges and stuff. But most of the classes I take just have the teacher sit there and say, "Okay, we're going to talk about France tonight." They talk a little bit, and then we have some French wine.
So Ron, tell us, it's National Wine and Cheese Month. Tell us some pairings that you would recommend for, let's say, for 4th of July, picnics, any ideas for pairings. People are doing this thing now where they're doing this charcuterie boards where they put together wine, rather cheeses and meats and or vegetables, fruits, whatever. They make a charcuterie board. So what types of cheeses, if we have the cheeses, what types of wine should we pair with cheeses? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I've been asked a lot through the years at the winery, and different questions come in on the blog show, and people asking what wine to pair with what meat or what wine to pair with what cheese and all that. And a simple rule I always like to tell people to follow is don't let the wine overpower your cheese and don't let the cheese overpower your wine. You try to keep a balance on everything, and that's really the key to it more than any this cheese will go great with this wine or something. If you have a balance where you can take a bite of cheese and it fills your mouth and you love the taste of it and it lingers, then you take a sip of wine, and instead of the cheese covering up that wine, the wine then takes over and starts filling your mouth, and you're getting the taste of that in the aftertaste. And then you can take more cheese, and that again takes prominence. So it's really a matter of, as long as the wine isn't too powerful, I don't think I would go something, a big heavy red wine with most any of these cheese boards that they're coming out. I would try to stay light and fruity.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of good sweet wines out there. I love a Gewürztraminer myself. I think that goes great with a lot of the different cheeses.
Uh-huh.
And so I enjoy that. And if I'm going to go red, one of my favorite reds is an Italian Barbera.
Oh,
I
yes.
just absolutely love an Italian Barbera.
Uh-huh.
But any cheese and wine, I always, and any type of food, meats or anything, I always give the same suggestion: never let one overpower the other. So
Exactly.
it's a matter of what your taste can handle.
Yes.
If a wine doesn't fill your mouth with the flavors and the cheese still lingers and lingers, then the wine is too light. You need to get
Yes.
yourself something heavier.
Yes, and I think that's a great way to kind of train your own palate. So, because wine was really originally made to pair, to complement, right? To complement food.
Right.
And people don't realize this, but it was the whole idea of wine is because it changes the taste, and hopefully for the better, or just complements, or it really emphasizes the taste of what you're eating. So, I think that's a great idea. Even if you have a charcuterie board with different cheeses, maybe if you have a wine, try the different cheeses with the wine, and, kind of see for yourself which one you think, pairs really interestingly with that wine. So I think that's absolutely right. And what you're just saying about not overpowering the flavors, that's kind of the rule of thumb with an Italian cooking. You really aren't, it's all about balancing out flavors. Right. So it's the same thing with wine. But no, I think that's definitely a great idea, telling people to try. So what would be a white wine? I think it sounds like a lot of people like the lighter white wines in the summertime outside, they're lighter. Any white wines you could recommend?
Well, like I mentioned before, Gewürztraminer. I really am a fan of the Gewürz.
Okay.
And it's one that most people haven't heard of and haven't tried.
Right.
And it's really sad because it's a great wine. It has hints of sweetness in some of them. Others it doesn't. It's got that flavor that you won't find in most other wines.
Right.
And another white wine favorite of mine is the Riesling. Because of the diversity of it. You can get yourself a very, very dry Riesling, or actually some of the sweetest wines in the world are Riesling. So I'm a very big fan of the Rieslings. It just depends on where you source it. And, Virginia makes a lot of Rieslings, but most of them are dry. And that's, it's something you got to be careful. You can't just say, well, I like Rieslings because they're sweet, because they aren't all sweet.
Exactly. There's different varieties. Well, that's great. I think a Riesling is definitely a good white wine choice. And the other one also that you were mentioning,
the Gewürztraminer.
Gewürztraminer. Yes, I'm more familiar with the Riesling, but that sounds like a good choice also, especially if you haven't tried, if someone hasn't tried that. It's a great way to diversify your wine experience, so you get to try them. That's great. So Ron, tell us, we can find all about wine. Did you say it's on Blog Talk Radio also?
Blog Talk Radio. We also are on Facebook, and also on, what other format? I have a co-host, Mike.
Okay.
He's the one that originally came and approached me about it. Then he's my technical man.
Yes.
He has us on different formats.
Yes.
But All About Wine, it's on Blog Talk Radio. So it's All About Wine. Actually, Blog Talk Radio, btr.com/allaboutwine.
Okay.
And you can get it there. Our website is All About Wine 101. And we have a Facebook page, Facebook All About Wine, and any of these formats. But we go live every week at 7:00 Eastern time.
Okay.
And we're always looking for guests. We've had guests from all over the world. In fact, just last Thursday, our guest called in from Mexico City,
Wow.
which, yeah, that was fun. And
Yes.
we've talked to people in Australia,
Uh-huh.
and there was one guy who called us from Bali,
Uh-huh.
who the Wandering Winemaker he called himself, and he's
Uh-huh.
been all over the world. We've
Wow.
had some guests that were authors, and we did one of a director and writer of a movie
Uh-huh.
that is called Wine and War, and it's the
Uh-huh.
story of wine in Lebanon and
Mhm.
how how it came about. That is a great movie too, by the way. I
Wow. Yeah.
highly recommend it because it's some
Yes.
very interesting stuff.
Yes.
And all the proceeds they get from that movie go to Children's Hospital to help children in Lebanon. So
Oh, that's great. That's
it's
wonderful.
good proceeds.
Yes.
And we every October we have a haunted show or haunted month where we
Uh-huh.
talk to guests who have wineries who are haunted in the
Uh-huh.
around the country.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
And so
very
we
interesting.
really quite diversified, and we've
Diversified.
got some great acknowledgement over the years too. Last year, Wine Spectator magazine named us one of the top 6 wine blogs to listen to.
Wow.
Uh,
That's
yeah, that was
yeah.
quite a pat on the back. We were
That
proud of that.
definitely. Yes, that is a definitely a big pat on the back. Definitely
Yeah,
something to be very proud of. That's great. That's
yeah.
wonderful. So, okay, All About Wine on Blog Talk Radio. And can we find you where is it's considered a podcast? Can we find you? Like, are you on iHeart and Spotify or just mainly Blog Talk Radio? Just so
Yeah,
people know.
I've asked listeners to send in how they listen to us.
Oh,
What is the
okay.
format?
Right.
And we've gotten a whole bunch of different ones. And
Right.
I don't know how we are connected to all these different ones,
Yeah.
but we
Well,
are.
you do, it's just distributing, they distribute through different channels. So, well, that's good to know then, because I just
Yeah.
wanted to tell people they can look up All About Wine. Well, that sounds great. Ron, thanks so much and happy rest of the summer to you.
Thank you,
And
you too.
much success with your podcast with All About Wine, the podcast show. And hopefully we'll, be in touch. We'll have you as a guest, or yes, please let me know. I'd like to be a guest too. Please reach
I
out.
would love to have you on as a guest of the show. That
Yes. Yeah.
we don't do face to face. We do
That's
it's all
okay.
audio, but
Yes.
we would love to have you as a guest on the show. I'll be in touch with you and let you
Yes. Just let
what's
me
available.
know. Would love to do that. Great. All right, Ron. Thanks again. Take care. And this will be up in the month of July. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I
Okay,
appreciate it. It
thank you.
was great talking with you.
You too. And today I am here with Mary Bode, who is the founder, along with her husband, of the Knead Community Cafe in New Kensington, Pennsylvania. We're interviewing Mary because we're starting a new feature this month. We are highlighting a nonprofit each month. And this month we selected the Knead Community Cafe. They're doing some really great work in New Kensington, Pennsylvania. Mary, thank you so much for being here and taking time out. Tell us about how the Knead Community Cafe got started.
Sure. Hi, Maria. Thanks for
Hi.
having me.
Yes.
So we are in our 5th year of operation. My husband and I are co-founders, and we did a lot of mission trips to third world countries, and we came back to after one mission trip and decided, it's great to do service to where is needed in the world, but we saw the need in our own community. Mm-hmm. And we explored different avenues of nonprofits. We've always donated some of our time to nonprofits, but we wanted to start our own. And I came across on the website an organization called One World Everybody Eats, which is a loose association of community cafes. We did about 2 years extensive research, and we traveled around the country to visiting community cafes taking bits and pieces from everywhere, seeing how we thought it would work in New Kensington in our community. So it's been a labor of love. It is the most exciting kind of venture. We are a full service cafe with a mission component, and we have two legs of the mission. One is to provide the opportunities for everyone to eat the same great foods regardless of their means. And the other thing is to create a safe and loving environment that community could come together. And we found the word Knead, Knead, thought that is very symbolic to what we want to do. We want to strengthen the bonds of community and create a loving space where people can gather freely. So we are community run and supported here, Maria. We don't have prices. We have suggested donations. So when someone comes in to order off the menu, there's a suggested donation. We partner with people where they are. So if they want to pay the suggested donation, that's great. Some people pay it forward by giving a little bit more to help offset those that can't pay. If people have a few dollars, that's okay, because they've been covered by somebody in the community that paid it forward. And then if people want to volunteer with us for their meal, we welcome that. We have very few staff, paid staff. We run on volunteerism of our community. So it's not like there are certain people have and have nots. We have everybody in a green apron. And so when someone comes in to volunteer for their meal, they become part of our group, part of our organization. And we get to know people and their needs. We get to network with them. We get to provide hope and inspiration to those that may come in that are, challenged financially. We become a partner and a friend to them.
Oh, that's great. Especially at this time. I think there's such even more of a need for things like this. That's wonderful. So, Mary, where can people, so you're in New Kensington, Pennsylvania. So if somebody wants to come to eat there, what's the address?
Sure. So we're about 20 miles outside of Pittsburgh. The best way to learn about us is to look at our website, www.Knead, Knead, communitycafe.org. And you could find all about us, and also on our Facebook page. We host a lot of events. 30% of our budget comes through fundraising and activities. And so we're always planning different things. But yes, we have people that hear about us and visit us just while they're in town. You can also go to oneworldeverybodyeats.org and find if there are any community cafes located in a listener's area. Prior to COVID, there were nearly 50 cafes. I know that we have lost a few because of the pandemic. But there are all over the country cafes similar to the mission that we have here.
Wow, that's nice to know. I was not aware of that. That's really nice to know. And that's something good and something good for people to look into if somebody in another area wants to start. It sounds like they need now. So that's great. So so if people want to find out more about Knead Community Cafe, then they can go to your website. And that was kneadcommunitycafe.org. Was that it?
Yes, it is, Maria.
Great. Well, Mary, thank you so much for being here. And hopefully we'll have some people, if you're traveling this summer and you're passing by, definitely stop by and tell Mary that you heard her on the Maria Liberati show too, but definitely stop by.
Yes, and you too, Maria. We'd love to see you if you're ever in our area.
I will definitely try to stop by. Yes, I would love that. It sounds like a really wonderful place. No better way to share community than food. So
food is love, right?
Food is love, definitely. Yes. Thanks again, Mary. Thank you and much success. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show. This is Maria Liberati, and thanks to my producer, Britton Roselle, my production intern, Alexandra Troy, and thanks to this week's guests, Mary Bode from the Knead Community Cafe and Ron Hunt, host of the All About Wine podcast. And stay tuned for our episode in July. We'll be featuring guests for National Wine and Cheese Day and some of the holidays in July 4th and July 14th, Bastille Day, and some other really delicious topics. And you can find me at marialiberati.com, on Twitter at Maria Liberati with a capital M, on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, on Instagram at Maria Liberati, on Pinterest at Maria Liberati, on TikTok at Maria Liberati, and my Roku channel, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking by Maria Liberati. And once again, thanks for liking and sharing all the episodes with your family and friends. And stay tuned. We will have some more giveaways in the month of July for those that are liking and sharing my episodes. Until next week, peace, love, and pasta.